Hello and welcome on Thomas Geiger Car. Today with the first glimpse of the Mercedes EQC, the first real battery electric vehicle out of Stuttgart. We all know the electrified Smart and the converted B-Class, but this is the first purpose-built electric vehicle of the luxury brand, due to take the competition with Audi e-Tron, Jaguar I-Pace and most of all Tesla's Model X from mid next year on in Europe, late next year in China. If you don't want to wait that long and want to know what to expect from that vehicle, join me on my first review and I'll tell you more about it. The drivetrain of the EQC features two electrical engines, one at the front, one at the rear, meaning you have all-wheel drive if necessary. Combined, they develop 408 horsepower and 765 Newton meters of torque, enough to accelerate the vehicle from 0 to 100 in 5.1 seconds. That's about the speed you gain in a C63 AMG. Top speed is a little more limited, 180. That's where the electronic cuts off due to saving the range. The battery is 80 kilowatt hours and gives you a range of more than 400 kilometers in the WLTP cycle and 450 kilometers in the NEFZ cycle. The interior of the EQC is a kind of combination of what you know from the GLC and the new A-Class, because we have the layout of the SUV and the technology of the new compact star of Mercedes, meaning the big widescreen cockpit with the touchscreen in the center and the MBUX user experience with its fancy graphics, its nice and intuitive menus that were updated, and they have added a special electric feature. So once you hit the EQ logo, you get into the menus for your vehicle. You can program the charge, you can see the status of the charging, you can even program the preconditioning of the vehicle and set up the air condition while the vehicle is parked at a charger. And if you're too lazy to figure out where the commands are and to scroll down the lists of commands, you just talk. Since MBUX features a speech recognition like your Siri on the iPhone, to wake up the system you just say, "Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?
How big is my range?"
You can still drive 327 kilometers.
So without pushing any button, without touching any screen, I know how far I can go. The back seat of the EQC is as comfortable as you know it from the long wheelbase GLC. Not more and not less. But compared to other electric vehicles, Mercedes is not taking the full advantage of the electric drivetrain. Since they're sharing some parts of the platform with the GLC, they still have that tunnel in the middle between the seats that you stumble over when you move from the left to the right. Since there is no drivetrain going from the back to the front, they usually could get rid of it. They're using it for some cables, but if you look, for example, at the Tesla Model X or the Jaguar I-Pace, you have a fully flat floor and you can move around easily and can use more of the space. We've all seen the show car 2 years ago at the Paris Auto Show. That gave us a first impression of the new design language of the Mercedes technology brand EQ. The production model is obviously not as fancy, because even Mercedes has to look for the money and somehow have to save the money that they put in the very expensive battery in the bottom. But nevertheless, the car looks totally different than the petrol and the diesel models, even if it shares some components and the platform with the GLC. The grille is pretty much closed. We have a different light with that blue stripes, and once you go to the side, you realize that the wheels somehow look electric with the blue spokes. And the shape of the car is different to the GLC, especially in the back. It is 10 centimeters longer, it's got a coupe shape, and it's got a bigger trunk to compensate for the battery that is in the floor. Thanks for joining me on that first static review of the Mercedes EQC, a car that will start a new era at Mercedes, because there are way more electric vehicles to come. The design looks interesting, but not as futuristic as many other vehicles, so it still stays close to the brand. The interior is just amazing, and the figures for the drivetrain look very promising. More than 400 kilometers of range, an acceleration like an AMG model, 180 kilometers top speed, That should be well enough for an everyday usage. The only problem is the late start. Yes, we've seen the car today, but until it hits the market, it takes almost another year. That's the time Tesla can use to build up their brand and to bring more models. Thank you, Tschüsschen, and bye-bye.